Hey, welcome to the college recruiting checklist. So, today we're going to go over 9 different steps that are going to help kind of demystify the college recruiting process for a baseball player. So, if you don't know much about me, I was a pro pitcher for a long time. I played 6 seasons in 7 years. I had a gap year because of injury. I was twice voted an all-star. I now own Warbird Academy, which is a baseball academy in central Illinois. I wrote my first book on pitching back in 2013. It's called Pitching Isn't Complicated, and it's a manual for pitchers. It includes the mental side of the game, pitch sequencing, holding runners, pitching mechanics, all that stuff. It's pretty comprehensive. And one thing that's important to note about me is I did make it deep into pro baseball. I played until I was 30, but I got my start as a walk-on. So I played at a small Division I school, the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I did not earn a scholarship. And I started as one of the bottom pitchers on our depth chart. So I slowly worked my way up. But obviously, with me, I didn't have a ton of choices of where I was going to go play college ball because I wasn't that good as a high school pitcher. And I didn't really realize that until the recruiting process started and ended, all really just with one school. So as we undergo this process of trying to find you a college, we're going to go through these 9 steps. Number 1, you need to be honest with yourself. So if we want to find a school that fits you, it's got to fit your ability level. Most players don't like to hear what their actual ability level is because it's usually lower than they believe it is. But step 1 is being honest. Step 2, we're going to try to find schools that fit. Step 3, we're going to look for baseball programs within those schools. So it's school first, baseball program second. We're then going to make contact with the school. You're going to attend camps. We're going to follow up with them. And then when a scout finally comes to watch you play, you need to play well. Step 8, we're going to kind of look at and gauge the interest level that we've gotten. And then step 9, once we've gotten some contact, some follow-ups from coaches, we're going to kind of reevaluate and then repeat the process if necessary. So as you age and increase your ability level, and this is me speaking to players, you can continue to go back through this process to new schools that might now fit you. So as a freshman, only a certain amount of schools might have any interest. But as a junior, especially as a senior, when you're fully grown, you're doing a lot of things a lot better, you've just improved and gotten more physical, a lot more schools may be interested. So don't give up hope. We have to just continue to kind of go back and circulate through the process again. So number 1. Okay, so read through those. Your parents don't know, your friends don't know, and you probably don't know how good you actually are. So step 1 is to find a coach who's going to tell you what you may not want to hear, which is how good you actually are. The vast majority of the kids that I work with, and I own a travel organization and a busy baseball academy, the vast majority are not Division I players, and they are not professional players. So if we're thinking about a common bell curve, the Division I and the draft picks, they're on the very end of the bell curve. The vast majority of players are not. So chances are, there's a college for everyone, and I firmly believe that, but chances are you're going to be a junior college, Division III, Division II. And those are all admirable goals. Those are, if you play college baseball in any capacity, you should be extremely proud of yourself. It's an achievement, and you made it very deep into baseball. Not everyone's going to be a Division I player, and for many of the players that do play Division I baseball, a lot of them don't play a whole lot. They sit the bench or they just struggle. So it's not easy to succeed at the Division I or professional level, even if you do make it there. So number 1, I want you to recruit a coach who will be honest with you. So again, your mom and dad might think you're the absolute best player, and you might be the best player they've ever known. You might be in a small town, or your parents might just not really understand the qualifications of a good ball player. And even if you're successful on your team, your high school team, whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that you stack up amongst the nation's worth of really good players. Because if you're trying to get a scholarship to a big school, you're competing with kids in all 50 states, thousands and thousands of kids. So it's not just the players around you. You might very well be the best player. I was the best player on almost all of my amateur teams growing up, but I still didn't earn a scholarship to play college baseball, and not many schools gave me a chance. So be honest with yourself. find a coach and just be ready to get an objective evaluation of how good you actually are. So I'm going to give you two examples because, again, I'm not going to give you a Excel chart with this is how hard you need to throw, this is how hard you need to hit the ball, because there's a lot of intangibles. However, I'm going to go over a Division I shortstop and then over a Division I pitcher and just give you an idea of what these players can do as they mature and attract the attention of scouts. So Division I shortstop, he hits the ball off the tee, that's your exit velocity, probably around 90. Are there guys lower than that? Sure. There's always a sliding scale, but most of the guys who have that ability to play Division I baseball, probably in the 90 to 95 range. Throwing velocity, 80 plus if he just really has a good firm crow hop and uncorks it. Now, for infielders, most of the time, they're not doing it that way. You watch even the big leaguers, they're getting rid of the ball quickly from weird arm angles because they're always on the move, because that's one of the qualifications of a really good infielder. However, most of those major leaguers have 90 plus on tap if they need it, and most Division I shortstops have at least 80 on tap. 60 time, 6'9" or better. So that's a pretty important one. The college game is very, very fast. They want to see you run a sub 760, if not a good amount better than that. And then these last two, chances are, there are some towns where, I've played against high schools, and our summer teams, the Warbird Senators, have played against summer teams with 8 players in their starting 9 who are Division I recruits or commits. And so, this might not be as much be applicable to them, but for the vast majority of towns, think of the best fielder, the best hitter that you know. That's the kind of player who might play Division I, and he still might not. But these kids, again, are on the very far end of the bell curve. So if you're not the absolute best fielder or the best hitter in your whole town, then chances are you're probably not quite at this level. So it's hard to describe exactly how good of a fielder and how good of a hitter you need to be. But exit velocity, throwing velocity, sprint speed, those things are measurable, but they're only a piece of it. You have to be able to hit, you have to be able to field, and it's hard to describe exactly what that is and what it looks like. But scouts and recruiters, they know what it looks like. And so basically just think of the best fielding shortstop that you know or have ever seen. That's probably the level that you need to be at. Same thing with hitting. Okay, so let's go through a Division I pitcher. Most Division I recruits, they need to see you throwing 88 to 90. Again, there's a lot of exceptions, but the vast majority, the average Division I pitcher, 88 to 90 these days. Velocity keeps going up. Frame. Scouts like big frames. Everyone does, because downhill angle, long, loose, fluid arm actions, all that stuff, it's important in them projecting the fact that you might get better. So a lot of Division I pitchers are pretty tall. Pro pitchers, even taller. 6'2", 200 is a good metric to shoot for. You need to be really athletic. And again, Division I athletes in general are the best athletes in their town. They're really, really athletic. They're usually 3-sport athletes, not because playing other sports helps your baseball ability, because it doesn't. That's a myth. But a lot of these kids are 3-sport athletes simply because they're really, really good athletes. So it doesn't, again, you shouldn't adopt other sports to increase your baseball prowess. That's not really, I think that's just a big misnomer. Everyone loves to point out that these major leaguers played 3 sports. It's not that 3 sports made them major leaguers. It's that they were major league athletic, which makes them good at all sports. Well, not all sports, but pretty good at pretty much anything they wanted to be at or play at. So think about how athletic you are and how fluid your arm action is. And lastly, good control and a good second pitch for strikes. So you can throw 88 to 90, and if you're all over the place, you might not be a Division I pitcher, because you're not going to get guys out like that. There's more and more emphasis on velocity than ever, and there's more and more throwers and fewer pitchers than ever. But I've sat next to scouts, I've talked to them, I've picked their brain, I've done this over and over. They need kids who can pitch, who can come in, and they can trust them to throw strikes. So if that's not you, you need to work on your command, and you need to work on throwing a good second pitch for strikes, because you cannot be a Division I pitcher and be successful just throwing a fastball. I promise you that. Okay, so last thing. Are there outliers? Absolutely. If you watch the College World Series, you will see relievers come in throwing 84 miles an hour. You will see starting pitchers throwing 86 miles an hour. You will see some tiny Division One infielders. You'll see lots of different skill sets. But if you imagine like a video game, one kid's meter might be a little bit low. His velocity meter as a pitcher might be low. But I guarantee you there's some other really high-level things that fill other meters. Those kids who don't throw as hard really know how to pitch, or they have really good off-speed stuff. There's lots of different things to consider. So when you see one of these guys, you might throw 84 miles an hour as a high school junior, and you might be watching an 84-mile-per-hour pitcher pitching in the College World Series. Are you guys the same? Absolutely not. He's a million times better than you. But it's not to say that you couldn't make it there throwing just as hard as he does, but he's special. There's other things that he's doing that are intangible that you might not have, that you almost certainly don't have yet as a junior. So again, you see these guys where you might have a pitcher like that who wins 2 state championships throwing 84, and he can just compete super well. He's got great command. He really knows how to pitch. He's got awesome off-speed stuff. And a local school is like, man, this guy can help us get to the College World Series. Even though he doesn't have premium velocity, they see them compete, they see them win, and they see that these kids can help them win. So there are outliers like that. There always will be. So none of these are absolutes as far as your evaluation. But again, the vast majority, the average, the bell curve, they're going to throw in the upper 80s. And the harder you throw, the more chances you're going to get to land a good school. That's part of it. But you still have to be a pitcher. You still have to be an exceptional fielder. You still have to be an exceptional outfielder. You still have to hit really, really well. If you're a catcher, you have to have great receiving skills and block, and you have a cannon behind the plate. Be a good receiver, a good pitch caller, a good framer, all that stuff. So I tend to talk about pitchers a little more than I should. But again, this is all about baseball players. And remember, you can make it to a higher level, but they're going to judge you on your raw ability first, especially when they're just getting a first look at you. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here, identify schools that fit. So you have to ask yourself a few questions. Number 1, where do you want to live after college? Number 2, what degree or career field might you be interested in? You don't have to know. You're still a kid. But having an idea, if you have one, helps. What's your budget, and how big of a school do you want to go to? This kind of makes like a funnel on screen here, but there's no real reason behind that. But look, if you say you're from a small town in Arkansas and you don't want to live in that town for the rest of your life, don't go to the local school, because that's where you're going to make a million connections. That's where you're going to have more future employers that get to know you. You'll go to career fairs and all that sort of stuff to find your life after baseball. So ditto, if you want to go play baseball in, let's say, Massachusetts, but you're from California and you don't want to live in Massachusetts for the rest of your life, then maybe you shouldn't go to school in Massachusetts. Try to figure out what your future life might hold. And if you don't know, that's completely fine. But if you're really like, hey, I really want to live in the South, or I really want to live close to home, or I really want to live here or there, just be aware that your career might take you somewhere close to your college. It's very, very common. Additionally, if you don't want to live at home for the rest of your life, try to get somewhere farther out where you can make a connection and start your new nest, away from your parents. So whatever it is, think geographically. That's important. Number 2, your degree or career field. If you have an idea of what you want to do, see if you can find schools that fit that. So if you really want to be an engineer, which is a great goal, make sure your school is an engineering program. Don't waste 4 years and $100,000 in education. That's going to be a waste. And then as far as we talk finances, what's your budget? So if you don't have tons of money and you don't want to be riddled with student loans and debt, then maybe consider junior college, or just consider an in-state school, things that can save you money. So make sure your budget fits, because you don't want to go spend all this time going down the recruiting rabbit hole with a school that you're not going to be able to afford, or you just don't want to put yourself in that amount of debt. And then lastly, how big? There's a very different college experience depending on if you're at a huge school like Iowa or a tiny school like, say, Illinois Wesleyan, which is in my town. So you got to figure out, and that just takes visits, like what kind of college experience do you want? Do you want the really big school? Do you want the really small school? Do you want to have small classroom sizes? Do you want to have big classroom sizes? It's completely up to you, and you should figure out first what school fits. Okay, so then we're going to look at what schools fit for you as a player. So I kind of break it down into being 3 types. So type 1 is, hey Dan, I just want to play baseball. I don't care where. Whoever will give me a jersey, I will play for them. That's what I was. I got really with just one offer. And again, I played Division I, but it was really because I knew a family friend who was an alumni there. He made the connection, got the coach to come out and watch me as a favor. I mean, I had some ability, but I wasn't really at that level. I had a hammer curveball, which was an exceptional curveball for my age. And the coach said, look, you've got a great curveball. I'm going to take a chance on you, and you're not going to get any scholarship money, and you might not ever see the field unless you get a lot better, but you've got a good breaking ball. I've heard you're a nice kid, so we'll give you a shot. And if you get better, it'll be a good investment for us. Maybe it'll pay off, and maybe you'll have a good career. So that was how I got my start. I just wanted to play. I just needed a chance. I didn't care where. And as it turned out, UMBC gave me a great education. I had a great coaching staff. I had a great experience. So there's players just like this, and if that's you, great. It makes it easier because, we can find you somewhere if we cast a big enough net. Type 2 is the player who, look, I have a bunch of different offers. I'm not just going to take the first one. I want to find out what school fits me. So, it could be a stud player who's got any school in the SEC, and they're all coming after him, and then maybe I want to play for Auburn, or maybe I want to play for Tennessee, or maybe I want to play for Vanderbilt. I want to figure out which one it is, so I know I want to play. Like, baseball is my passion, but I'm going to be selective and make sure, it fits. And that's a good place to be. But this person also knows that baseball is a priority. They're not going to choose school where they can't play ball. And then type 3, we have kids like this in our academy as well who they're like, hey, I really want to go to a big school. I want to go to, say, the University of South Carolina. And I know I'm probably not good enough to play there, but that's the school experience I want. And I might try to make the team, or I might really try to get in touch with the coach and see if I can earn a spot. But if not, I'm still going to go there anyway. If that's you, that's perfectly fine. That's a very mature decision, and go for it. Because again, school is extremely important. That needs to be your number one thing. I mean, you can chase baseball down the rabbit hole. That's what I did. I left it all out there, and I knew that I would be okay in the end. But there's a lot of players who that's probably not the right way to go about it. They need to plan their education a little bit more. So again, it's up to you to kind of figure out which type are you and what kind of schools should we be looking at. Okay, so next slide, we're looking at some realities again. Chances are you're not going to be a professional player. And if you play baseball below the Division I level, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to turn into a pro. The vast majority of draft picks come out of Division I baseball. Again, I'm saying the vast majority. Are there Division III, Division II, NAIA, junior college draft picks every year? Absolutely. There's some everywhere. But I remember a couple years ago, there were only a dozen draft picks out of Division III, the entire Division III, and almost all of them were pitchers and catchers. So you just need to be aware that you can develop anywhere you want. So you can go be a junior college, NAIA, Division I, Division II, Division III player, and you can develop into someone great. That happens all over. Billy Wagner was a Division III player. There's tons and tons of stories of guys growing into themselves and becoming excellent players no matter where they play in college. However, be aware, chances are you're not going to turn professional. And if you end up selecting a school that's below Division I level, your chances of turning into a pro are even less. So just be aware that your education and your career is coming first. Okay, so if you have a list of schools that geographically make sense, academically make sense, budget-wise make sense, size and experience-wise make sense, then you need to start narrowing down to see if the baseball programs that they offer fit. So say, Dartmouth is on your list. Fantastic academic school. Is the baseball program right for you? Is the conference that they play in a good fit? Is the coaching staff a good fit? Do they have a roster that makes sense for you? Like if you're a third baseman, they have 5 freshman infielders from the class ahead of you. Are you ever going to get to play? There's all these different things to consider, but you want to start with a school that fits your academic and personal standards, but you also need to find one that fits your baseball ability. So again, start with lists of schools first, then start going through their baseball programs and see which ones that interest you. So you might have 10 schools that all have the engineering program that you want, but of those 10, a couple teams might not be that good, or a couple teams might, I don't know, play on on a field that you're not really a big fan of, or maybe they play in a conference, or maybe they're just geographically they're not exactly right for you. So you're going to narrow down your list, and that's okay, but just make sure that you're now matching your academic experience with your potential baseball experience. So if you do that, you've got a list. All right, so we've got a list. Now it's time to make contact. So first thing we need to do, 2 things. Complete the student athlete questionnaire on the website of every school. And number 2, email the coaching staff yourself. Do not let mommy and daddy make first contact for you. It's a big no-no. So if you go to any school's website, find their athletics page, find the baseball program page, you'll find a student athlete questionnaire for almost all of them. Fill that out. It has all the information that they want from you. So all these like fancy college recruiting profiles, they're important, but you'll figure out exactly what they're looking for if you fill out 1 or 2 of these student athlete questionnaires, because the info that they're gathering from you as a prospective player is the information that they need. They're going to ask for your grades, where you go to school, your height, your weight, where you play, all this different stuff about you. Fill it out so then they get that information. I've talked with a lot of college coaches, and they say that they go through all of these submissions. They read all the emails. They might not respond. They might not be allowed to respond depending on the time of year, your age, and NCAA restrictions. However, they're going to read it because they're looking for players. Like, they want to know if you're a great player who would fit their program, they want to know about you. So make it easy for them. Complete the student athlete questionnaires and email the coaching staff. Introduce yourself. Tell them what you're interested in. Tell them what kind of player you are. Talk about their school. Explain to them why you think you'd be a fit at their school. So both of those things, make sure you do them. So we'll go through 2 slides of do's and don'ts. So number 1, do show your interest. Again, that's just emailing the coach saying, hey, I would love to play for Louisiana State. I would love to play for the University of Maryland. I would love to play for the University of Michigan. Whatever it is. Let them know that you're interested in them. It says, okay, we have a kid who might want to play for us. Let's look at him. Would he be a good fit? It just starts the relationship. Give them videos, give them references, give them information. And again, references are people like me. I email college coaches on behalf of our players because I played baseball for a long time. I work with a lot of kids. I get to know them as people. I can give them an accurate, realistic representation of what kind of player they'd be and if they would fit that program. So again, that's why you need someone, back to step 1, who's going to evaluate you and give you a good idea of where you fit in. And then that person can also help vouch for you, be a good reference, and get you in front of a college coach. So if you have videos or you have a recruiting profile somewhere, or if you haven't made a video yet, see if you can get some game footage, see if you can find time in a local batting cage, record a video of your swing, just 30 seconds of you hitting off the tee, maybe a slow-mo, maybe some radar gun if you have it in there to show exit velocity, whatever. It doesn't have to be complex, but show them your tools, and it's going to be like, okay, wow, look at that kid's swing. He's pretty good. Let's follow up with him. Let's see if we can get him to one of our camps. It's kind of how it works. And then, like I talked about, do have a coach follow up for you as well. So if you fill out the questionnaire, you send them an email, and then I send an email for you. That's a pretty good little stream of communication to that college. It's going to help you get out there. It's going to help them start to get some repetition on your name. And lastly, check for typos, check for grammar, have someone proofread it. It's perfectly fine to have your parents or teacher or coach proofread your email. I have a template email that I provide for my players that I'll provide for you as well in a separate presentation. But make sure your pitch to them is professional. It's not full of grammatical and typographical errors. Make sure it reads okay. Make sure it conveys the message that you want it to convey. So have someone, again, at a little higher pay grade than you, check it over, make sure it's good to send. So some don'ts. Don't have your parents make first contact. College coaches want kids who are relatively independent. There's a lot of demands for college baseball. So if your mommy and daddy are going to make first contact to a coach, they're going to just cross you off their list. They don't need that. And they don't need parents who are hyper vigilant and what's the other word? Who are just going to be potential problems for them. They don't want to hear from your mom or your dad or whoever 3 years down the road when you're playing for them and you're not getting the playing time that you want, because you might just not have earned the playing time, or you might not be good enough. They don't want to know that you're the kind of family where if things aren't going perfect for you, you're going to become a headache for their coach. Now, just by making first contact does not mean that that's going to be the case. It doesn't mean that that's the kind of family you are. But for players, this is your chance to communicate with the coach, not your parents. Once you guys get on a visit, once you get farther along the communication chain, sure, parents are going to need to have questions for the coaches, and coaches are going to answer them for you. All that stuff is part of the family decision-making process. But first contact is for the player. Do not have your parents make first contact. Number 2, do not embellish your ability. We go back to number 1, making an honest evaluation. I do not lie for players. I've called a lot of coaches, and I'll tell you a story. A kid who was one of my first clients in my baseball academy. He trained with me for 5 years, and actually into his 6th year, so after his 2nd year in junior college, he hit like 190, and his coach didn't do very well helping him find a 4-year school to transfer to. So he texted me and said, "Hey Dan, I don't really have anywhere to go. I just finished up, or I'm about to finish up my sophomore year. Can you help me?" So he sent me a list of 10 schools. I was on a bus. I was still playing at this point, and I called the first one, the top school on his list, and the coach picked up, which was, I thought, pretty miraculous. But either way, I talked to him. I said, "Hey, I got a kid. His name's Morgan. He's an awesome person. He works his butt off in the gym. I've known him for 5 or 6 years now. He's just like the kind of kid you want on your team. If you had 30 of him, you would be extremely blessed, because you'd have a hardworking team of gritty players. He's a leader. He's going to help your younger players get better. And here's the thing. He's a good infielder. He's got a great glove. He's got an average arm, and he hit 200 this year, or he hit a $190 or whatever it was." And I'm like, "Look, I don't know if he can hit at your level or not. Like, he hasn't proven it yet, but he had a wrist injury. I know that factored into it. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know if he can play. I think he can. I think he's going to be an asset to your team regardless. And I think you should take a chance on him, because I just know what kind of a leader he is. I know he's a gritty ball player. He's a good player." That was the conversation that we had. I didn't lie. I told him that he hit 200 or 190 or whatever it was. And I told him that I didn't necessarily know that he was going to be an all-star for that team. But I just gave him an honest character reference, and I told him what I knew about the kid. And I was genuine in the fact that I thought he could help that program. And he did. And as it turns out, he's still coaching for that coach now. So after he finished his 4 years, he moved on to be a coach, and that head coach took him on his staff. They're currently part of a coaching staff in Florida. So that stuff matters, and I don't embellish anything, and you should not embellish either, because they'll figure it out. If you're going to say, "Oh, I throw 85 when you throw 82, or "Oh, I throw 90 when you throw 86, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be, "Well, this kid's a liar," or his coach who contacted me on his behalf is a liar. They're going to figure it out. So be honest. Either you fit or you don't, but don't embellish. Number 3, if you're not ready, don't show yourself. So if you're going to have a party, and you're baking this amazing cake for it. So after dinner, everyone's going to have this amazing cake. Don't take it out of the oven until it's done, right? Don't give your guests a half-baked cake. Wait until colleges are ready to see you. So they only might listen to you one time. And you want to make sure the one time that you have their ear, that you're really ready and you're potentially the player that they want. So if you're throwing 82 and you're a sophomore and you feel like 85 is the magic number for this school, wait another 6 months or wait a year, get a little bit closer, because if they see 82, they might just cross you off your list, and then that might be it for you. Then if you email them again in 7 months and say, oh, look, now I'm throwing 84, they just might not have the time, or they might have just moved on. That's happened before. So try to show yourself when you're ready, and you can start the recruiting process whenever you want. It's up to you. You can start getting yourself out there, but if you're just really not even close to being where you need to be for a coach to be interested in you, I don't think it's a good use of your time. And that goes up to number 4. Don't waste your own time. If you're a Division II talent, a junior college talent, an NAIA talent, whatever that means, don't go honking down Vanderbilt's door all night, all summer, all year. Like, figure it out. Figure out how good you are. Don't waste your time or others, because if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. So you can always get better. You can always, again, cast a bigger net as you get a little bit older and a little bit better, but don't waste your time. You only have so much time. The recruiting process is not easy. It's time consuming to make a big list, to get in touch with all these schools, to fill out 30 questionnaires and send 30 emails and 30 follow-ups and attend camps and attend showcases. So don't waste your time knocking down the doors of schools that you're just not going to be good enough to play at, or you just don't want to go there. If you don't really want to play 800 miles from home, don't have someone send all these emails on your behalf, and don't call them if you don't really think you're going to go there. So be honest with yourself. Okay, next thing we're going to do is attend camps, because these coaches need to see you play. Even if you send them videos or emails, they need to see you play in person. So there's 2 types. There's school-run ones, and there's showcase companies. So if you go to, let's make up a school. Let's say you go to Texas Tech. They probably have a school baseball camp. You can go to the Texas Tech baseball camp. It's a great way to get seen by Texas Tech, right? There's also showcase companies that will invite all these different college coaches, and you might get seen by 30 colleges. Both are different. Both are great. But if your heart is set on Texas Tech, you should definitely go to their camp, because they're going to get the most chance to see you. You're going to get some contact time with them. You get to talk to them. You'll get to see other recruits. You'll get to see other, Texas Tech players. Obviously I'm not endorsing any school, but look, if you love a certain school, go to their camp if you can do it. If you really want to go there, it's a necessary step. Okay, so I just kind of summed up a little bit of that, but school run camps, it shows that you have interest in them, and that's easy. When they know you're there and you're interested in their school, they're going to go, okay, here's a group of kids that we can kind of pick from, because they're here because they're interested in us. So they start to look really hard. You get more contact time with them. You get to see the campus, meet the coaches, and if, say, they like you, say they've never heard of you before, but you go to the University of Oregon's camp. They've never heard of you, but you go there and you really impress them. They're like, hey, thanks for coming. Can I show you around campus? Can I take you on a little visit? Can we have you meet the other coaches? Let me show you the locker room. It makes it all pretty quick. It can be a really fast process if you go there and impress people. You can also meet the recruits, compare yourself to others. So obviously you can't do potentially 30 school run camps. That's just a lot. And they typically run between $75 and $250. So it depends, but they're a good way to get in front of a specific school and really show your interest in them and give yourself the best shot of getting seen by that school. Okay, and then the other ones. So for showcase companies that put together these camps, Perfect Game does them, Prep Baseball Report does them. There's lots of companies locally and nationally that do them. They're going to get a lot of schools there at once potentially, or maybe it's just one of those showcases where they just take all your videos, they make a profile for you, they put on their site, and then colleges go through those sort of like subscriber-only sites, and they look for players that they can find. It's very successful. I mean, a lot of them these companies do a great job, and we've had lots of players who they get their first look and they get their first contacts from coaches because of going to these showcases. So there's definitely value there. They can sometimes be a lot more expensive, but they can be a really good way to cast a really wide net all at once. So don't rule them out. I think they're a good place to start. I think they're worth going to. You just have to figure out your budget and your time and all that stuff. And again, I don't think it's worthwhile, say you're an infielder and you're 120 pounds. and you're a sophomore, I don't think it's worth going to a showcase because no one's going to contact a 120-pound shortstop, and that's just sort of the way it is. So I think especially with these bigger showcases, they're fine to go to if they're within your budget, but I think it's a waste of time if you're nowhere close. So if you're a high school pitcher and you're throwing 75, you're not there yet. I would say save your money and wait, and then go to a second instead of sending yourself to a showcase, as an 8th grader, as a 9th grader, as a 10th grader, when you're just not ready in any of those grades. Save that money and go to 4 showcases as a junior. And when you're really ready, then really get yourself out there. But these are a good solution. But again, you want to make sure you're ready and it's not a waste of time. Okay, so again, are they worth it? Are camps and showcases worth it? The answer is yes, if you're ready. If you're not ready, you can still go there and compare yourself to other players, to get the experience, to look at schools, all that stuff, to get evaluations, get feedback on what you need to work on, and to get honest evaluation. So if you need to go back to step 1 and get an honest evaluation, a college showcase or a college camp or a showcase can be a great place to start. They'll be pretty honest with you. They're not going to sugarcoat it. They have no reason to do that. So, they can be a waste, but they can be really, really valuable. So it's completely up to you how you use them. But are they worth it? Yeah, I think they definitely are. Okay, so say you go to a college camp and you follow up with them, which you should. Send them an email, send them your schedule, give them a little update, just like, hey, just wanted to let you know, like, I started my season off well. We're through a month and I'm hitting 420 and I have six jacks and 12 doubles, whatever it is. Send them an update, let them know you're doing well. Don't annoy them, but update them. They want to know. And if they're like, oh man, we kind of like that kid and it sounds like he's off to a good start, let's send someone out there and see if we can watch him. So you do all those things and you finally get a coach to come watch you, right? Fantastic. So when they come to watch, what do you need to do? Well, this is a big step and no one else can do it for you. Guess what it is? Drum roll, drum roll. You have to play well. And it breaks my heart that we've had kids in our program who they get to this point and they just don't play well, or they just don't have it. And it's hard to say, like, look, I know you've worked your whole life and you've put in all this time in the winter, getting bigger, getting faster, refining your swing, refining your mechanics, whatever it is, and then they go out there and they hit 200. There's not a lot we can do for you. At a certain point, you have to be good enough to play college baseball. And if you're not, or if you can never do it when someone's watching, there's not really good workaround for that. So you have to play well when guys come and watch you. But here's the thing, it's not that you have to go 4 for 4 when a college coach comes to watch to get a chance. It's not the case. They're watching your swing. They're watching your tools. They're watching how you do when you don't do so well either. They're watching all that stuff. They understand what baseball is, and they're looking for prospects. They're not necessarily looking for how good you are right now. They need you to succeed at the high school level, because if you can't, then how are you going to succeed at a higher level? But at the same time, they're watching you play. They're watching all of it. They're watching your character. They're watching how you respond to failure. They're watching, are you a leader on the field? Do you bring your other teammates down on the field? How do you react after you boot a ground ball? How do you react when you strike out 3 times in a row? All that stuff. They're watching you. So if they want to come out and watch you, they have an idea that you might be good enough to play for them. But they still need to see it in action, and they also are looking for all the other intangibles. So, you need to make sure that you can hit. They need to see. That's the biggest thing. There's tons of stuff on pitching velocity, exit velocity, and 60 times. There are super fast kids who cannot steal a base because they don't know how to run the bases. There are really great swings, kids who have tons of power who cannot hit. And then there are pitchers who have a lot of velocity who stink at pitching. They just stink. So we need to be honest with each other. You need to get better at that on-field stuff. But scouts are there to see, can you play baseball, not just are you, this robot who has some tools, who can throw a ball fast, run fast, all that stuff. But just remember, because it sounds like I'm putting a lot of pressure on you to do well, and unfortunately that's sports, but if you brought them out, being yourself is going to keep them interested. So if they think you're good enough, you don't have to go out there and just try to beat 4 home runs over the fence and try to be someone that you're not. You have to learn to relax and just remember that if they think you're good enough to spend 2 hours of their time watching, then just be yourself and just do your thing and relax. So don't freak out. And it's hard to do that. I mean, I've pitched against in front of scouts and all that stuff my whole life. I've pitched in front of big crowds. It's hard to relax and just be yourself, but that's what you need to do. You can't force yourself to be better than you are. So just do what you can do. Play well, play as best you can, play hard, keep your head up, all that stuff. But just remember, if you were yourself and show them what you could do and they decide, yeah, let's go see that kid, just continue to be yourself, relax, and that will probably be enough to keep them interested and to hopefully further the process where they make you an offer. So after you do that, so you had a bunch of college coaches come to watch you. Now it's just to see like who took the bait, who wants to dance. So at this point, say only Division II schools are biting. Say you contacted 10 Division I's and 10 Division II's, and at this point, 5 Division II schools come back and they're talking to you and they're pretty interested, and 0 Division I schools have followed up. What does that tell you? You're probably a Division II kind of player at this moment. Doesn't mean you're relegated to Division II your whole life. Division II is an exceptionally high level of play. But look, if no division schools are following up and expressing interest, then you're probably not good enough to play at that level, at least right now. It's not to say you won't be someday, but at least right now. So after you've done all these steps and you've cast a big net and you've contacted all these schools and gotten in front of them and played, you're going to start to figure out how good you are based on what schools are interested. And it also depends on the year too. So if you're a freshman, Division III schools aren't going to come talk to you because you're so far away from like the Division III recruiting time, which is more like junior, senior year, that you might think, well, why are they not interested? They're just laying in wait, and there's different periods for all these different divisions because they're all kind of competing with each other. So depending on the time of the year, depending on your ability level, depending on all that stuff, how much recruiting you've done, it's just going to vary. So just keep your head on straight. But at the end of the day, you need to be like, look, I keep trying to be a Division I player, but only Division II and Division III are coming after me. So maybe that's just where I need to realize that I am. So at that point, have you found your dream school? If you have, congratulations. If you haven't, then we just need to keep improving and cast a bigger net. So you can continue to repeat the process, go through it again, contact more schools, especially if you know that you've gotten better. So if you're a pitcher and you're 84 to 86 and now you're 87 to 89, yeah, contact some more schools. See if you can go a little bit bigger. Do whatever you want to do and figure out, what new options might be available for you. So you can continue to cast a bigger net the better you get, and that's completely fine. That's normal. So I tell lots of kids, like, look, for right now, probably just focus on junior colleges or probably just focus on, junior college, NAIA, Division III, whatever. But when you're ready for a little bit bigger than that, then we'll reevaluate and we'll talk to some older schools, or not older, but some bigger schools for you. So you just have to kind of go as you develop, as your skill develops, and just keep repeating and go from there. So one thing that's important, remember, coaches trust other coaches, and I'm putting him or her because there are female scouts in baseball now, so we just need to understand that you might find one in your town who she really knows the game, and she's willing to vouch for you to, another coach in your area. So impress everyone that you can and find people who know the game, who know talent, who can help you get out there. So obviously playing for a good baseball organization that has contacts, hopefully they use those contacts to help you get out there. So again, it's going to carry a lot more weight when a college coach calls another coach, or a high school coach calls a college coach, or a scout calls a college coach on your behalf to say, yeah, this kid's good. He can do it. I think he could play for you. You guys should take a look at him. Happens all the time. You just need to find people you can trust, spread your network out, go be a gym rat at the local baseball academy, and just, make allies and hopefully play for a good organization, because your summer organization or your high school, those coaches are going to have a big impact on your future career. So if you have a high school coach who's willing to help you, and understand they have a lot on their plate, they have families, they have full-time teaching positions, they have tons and tons of players, so they might be super on board with helping you reach your dreams. They just might not have quite enough time to get you as far out as you want to go. So understand that too, but it takes your own work, and it needs to come from you first. But when coaches help you get out there, and they're going to help corroborate your own story. So say you contact a coach and he says, okay, this kid sounds good. Now they're going to come back and they're going to email your college coach or your high school coach and call him. And they're going to say, hey, I got an email from this kid. How good is he? He says he's pretty good. Is he as good as, he thinks he is? And they're going to say, yeah, he is. He's worth coming to see. Here's his schedule. Come out and watch him. I'll tell you more about him. So that's important. So if you don't have someone in your life who can help you get out there, find someone. Maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's a local instructor at a baseball academy. Maybe it's finding a better summer organization, or maybe it's just sitting down with your coach and your high school coach and figuring out, can you help me? What can I do for you where you can help me get out there a little bit farther? So relationships are huge. And if you can play for a guy who's got some influence, or a gal who's got some influence, leverage that as best you can. So let's review one more time. Number one, you got to be honest with yourself of how good you are right now. Number two, find schools that fit you academically, geographically, financially. Step three, of those schools that fit, find baseball programs that interest you. Number four, questionnaires and emails. Make contact with them. Be professional. Check for typos. Have a parent help you with those emails, but it needs to come from you first. Make contact. Make your interest known. Number five, you follow up with that by going to camps. So if you really want to go to a certain school, go to their baseball camp. Make it happen. Number six, after you go, follow up with them. Shoot them an email. Send them your schedule. Give them an update on how you're playing. Give them reasons to like you. Number seven, again, no one can do this for you. When they come to watch, do your best. That just means play the game hard. It means stay relaxed. But all the work and preparation has to come to fruition in a game. So just remember that. It's not always fair. You can put in all the work you want in the winter. If you don't play well, it just might not happen for you. Step 8, analyze the interest level. So once you've done all that stuff and coaches have come to watch you, if only Division 3s are interested, maybe you're a Division 3 player. Maybe that's where you're at. Or maybe you've gone to 10 Division 1s, and a bunch of them are SEC, a bunch of them are like, mid-level, mid-majors. Maybe a bunch of them are smaller Division 1s. Maybe only the small D1s are interested. That's okay. That's probably where you're at right now. So just be aware, when they start to follow up with you, it's going to be a good indication of how good you actually are. And number 9, reevaluate and repeat the process, especially as you grow and improve and make more connections. So if you see a bump in your size, in your strength, in your bat speed, in your fielding ability, in your running speed, in your pitching velocity, or in the quality of your off-speed pitch, whatever it is, when you start to get better, reevaluate your skill level and see if you can contact some new schools. Just repeat the process, and if you cast a big enough net, you'll find somewhere to play. I'm a pretty firm believer that there is a college for almost every player out there who wants it bad enough. And again, if you're not willing to put in the time to go through these steps, then maybe you don't want it bad enough. But if you do, this is a pretty good overview of what you need to do to find yourself a place to play in college baseball.